Hey folks, how's it going? I'm up in the forestry. This might be quite long. I'm going to go back a bit into a bit of my past with regards to music. And this is kind of a message to my kids in some ways. Because I was thinking about that this afternoon as I watched a documentary about one of my favourite bands, Genesis. And, well, that goes back to my first concert, but we'll get to that. First of all, it's really about following your dreams and not allowing anything to get in your way, you know. Because I'm sitting here facing 50, a couple of months' time. Where are we now? July, August, September, October, 3 months away from 50. And watching a documentary about a band that reminded me of my first concert, which is when I was 15, 1987. So it got me feeling nostalgic, which I suppose is what a documentary that goes back in time should do. And that's what it did do. And what it got me thinking about was how, if I had to have one dream granted, one wish, it would be to perform as a member of a band in a stadium that's filled to capacity. I didn't know really that was a dream. I mean, I did in here, but I had never actually articulated it or written it down. So what we'll do is we'll go back to one of my earliest kind of musical memories is of lying in my bed listening to Jean-Michel Jarre. I don't know if I've shared this on my channel before. I might have done. Can't remember exactly, but I might have done. Not sure what age I would have been. I think my musical coming of age was around about 1981 when my cousin came to visit from Wales, and she asked me if we could put on the top 40 on Sunday. It was on every Sunday from 4 till 7, and I had never listened to the top 40 before. So I think it would have been 9 or 10, probably 9 or 10. And that's when I first started listening to music, really, apart from ABBA and the Beatles. So I had been listening to ABBA and the Beatles because my dad had tapes, but I'd never really followed the top 40. So from then on I did, and it was a bit later, obviously, not obviously, because Genesis were around then. They'd been going since the mid-60s, I guess. But I didn't really discover them until Invisible Touch, which was 1987. But to go back to my earliest memory is of lying in bed listening to Jean-Michel Jarre and imagining that the cupboard on my wall was a secret portal into an arena where it turned out that I was Jean-Michel Jarre and nobody knew. So I went up on stage and played, and everyone was like, you know what I mean? And I'm not sure what it is about that dream that makes me desire it. Is it? It's not fame. It's not that. Is it love and devotion? I don't know. I always did like Peter Gabriel's song, Love to be Loved, because I felt that it described me quite well. So there could be some of that in it. There could be. You know, I've been thinking about it, and I think it's more to do with bringing joy to people and uniting them. Because this is the feeling that I get from going to a concert. It's a feeling of being part of something that's bigger than all of us. Listening to music, which is art. Art that moves us beyond the mundane into the sublime. I think that's a good way of articulating it. To be a part of that, to have enough people care about what I create, because I want to create from the soul and bring joy to people. I think that's what it is. I was watching a YouTube video a couple of weeks ago that was suggested to me, and it was ELO playing Mr. Blue Sky, Philadelphia, I think. Big stadium, and I remember seeing the crowds and just tearing up. Just seeing so many people gathered together to share in an experience like that. You just can't beat that. I never really performed. I never performed on stage. Actually, that's a lie. I did, because I played accordion. I started playing accordion from probably about the age of 6 and played through till I was 12, 13. And we did used to play in the local town hall on the stage, so I did perform, but I don't really remember that. So, fast forward a bit to Genesis. My first concert, Hampden Park, Scotland's national football team's arena. And I went with my girlfriend, Claire, and I know some of my other school pals that were there, so Kev, Paul, Youngie, those are the ones that I remember being there. And that concert, I look back on as a life-changing event, because, you know, although music was really important to me, and at that time I was probably running about Prestwick, delivering papers in the morning, then on to delivering milk in the mornings before school, permanently with headphones on and a cheap Walkman from the local shop. You know, those headphones with the orange foam that really hurt your ears after 20 minutes. So I was listening to music all the time. And Invisible Touch came out, 1986. So the tour came to Glasgow in 87, and so I was 15. I was allowed to go, which was, you know, wasn't a given, because taking a trip to Glasgow on your own at that age. Anyway, I was allowed to go, and I can remember the feeling of being outside in the afternoon on a hot June day and hearing the sound check. Paul Young was the support act. So really my first live concert was Paul Young in that sense. And hearing the sound reverberating off all the buildings around the arena, you know. It was the first time I'd heard loud music like that outdoors, and I just remember that feeling like, wow, this is going to be something. And the only Genesis music I knew at the time was the Invisible Touch album. And obviously they played a lot of other stuff that I didn't know. And they opened, I remember them opening with Mama. And there were screens, you could see the band on the screens, and I'd never been in a crowd like that before either. And to hear that roar, I mean, there's Scottish rhyming slang, what's the Hampden? Meaning, what's the Hampden roar? What's the score? The Hampden roar is something to behold. And I got to be right in the middle of that Hampden roar when Genesis came on stage, and it was just one of those life-changing events. So I think maybe that cemented my desire to perform, to be in a band on stage in an arena. But it never went anywhere, and as I said, I had never articulated it. I had dreamed of it that time, imagining I was Jean-Michel Jarre, but other than that, you know. And so I kind of, every time I went to a big concert, I would imagine myself being up there. And it's kind of strange because I have performed a lot now, musically. You know, I've been in several bands, I've been a lead singer, I've been rhythm guitarist, I've done solo gigs. I've probably played well over 100 gigs in my time. Quite comfortable doing it, but I do still get the fear when I'm about to go on, you know, usually the day of. I'm feeling quite anxious and fearful, and then I get on stage, and it's one of those times where, it's one of the few times in life, I think, where I'm actually in the present, you know, when I'm in the moment. And I think that's what it's about. You know, I like to ask people when they feel that they're most creative, and I enjoy listening to the different answers that I get, because, you know, I do talk to a lot of YouTubers in particular, but also a lot of musicians. And for me, at the moment, I would say it's when I'm up here, when I'm walking up here in nature, there's no one around. I could be listening to music on my headphones and just feeling in the moment, you know, in the present. So anything that can put me into the present is something I should be seeking. I should be doing more. And, you know, my channel is really about recovery. That's why my channel's here. I want it to be about recovery from addiction, but I want it to be more than that, because, you know, life after addiction is how I like to put it. And I think for me that the alcohol and the drugs are also about getting rid of the fear and putting myself in the moment. And so performing and getting into that creative space where fear and anxiety, I'm not saying they slip away, but they become irrelevant. You know what I mean? And when I'm performing, I'm kind of in a zone, and I've taught myself over the years how to deal with the fear and the anxiety. You know, not to give it too much power, and to go out and just do the thing anyway. You know, be courageous. Courage is my word for the year, which some of you may know if you've been watching my channel for a little while. So yeah, watching this documentary this afternoon, it went back through the history of Genesis, and it did play some clips from the Invisible Touch tour, and, you know, I was immediately transported back to 1987, and that feeling, that connection to that moment was so powerful. You know, I was getting all teary and all that, and at the end of it, you know, because all through it I was thinking about this dream of mine that's never going to happen. You know, let's be honest. It's nice to have the dream, and I will continue to think that way when I'm watching stadium gigs. I'm hopefully going to see Genesis in October, a concert that's been postponed a couple of times now. It's rescheduled for October. It's in the SECC Hydro in Glasgow, so I'm sure that will be another occasion where I lose it emotionally, and also imagine myself up there, you know. But that's what got me thinking about my kids and about their dreams and ambitions. And at the end of the documentary, it was interesting because Peter Gabriel said something along those lines. And I'll drop it in here. I'll put it in as a text quote with Peter Gabriel's head or something, because it was quite moving. And okay, here it is.
Never underestimate what difference you could make or what you could do. I've seen other people, you know, at every stage with everything I've done, who are smarter and better than I am, and that hasn't deterred me. So that's what I say to young people everywhere. You know, don't limit yourself or limit your expectations, because if you want to make a difference, if you want to change the world, it's all there.
So, yeah, particularly my daughter has dreams of performing music, mainly in an orchestra or being a composer for music scores or something along those lines. And watching her over the last year when she moved to a different school because there was a better music department at the other school, and watching her come up from grade 4 to grade 7 in a year during which there's been a pandemic and there have been no performances of any kind. It's incredible to watch that. And I just hope that she keeps her dreams alive and keeps working towards making them come true, as she's doing now. It's inspiring to watch, it really is. And so, yeah, that's kind of my history with music and with performing, you know. And I know that getting to perform to other people is a privilege that I get to do. And I don't really create my own music as such. I do when I'm improvising, so there's that. Another documentary that I watched yesterday, and this kind of is what gave rise to watching the Genesis one this afternoon, because it was made by the same journalist, David somebody. I'll drop it in, I can't remember his name. But he'd recently published some old interview footage with the members of Pink Floyd for a documentary that he did about Syd Barrett. And he talked to them all individually, and I watched those because I'm a massive Pink Floyd fan as well. And it was David Gilmour who said something along the lines of, you know, at the beginning when he was playing other people's music, you know, there was Leadbelly and Bo Diddley and all the other sort of influences that he admired. He said it started to change for him when he found his own sound.
When you stop imitating and start liking your own sound, that's when you sort of start getting somewhere, I find. I mean, I spent a lot of time trying to be Eric Clapton, Jimi Hendrix, Pete Seeger, Leadbelly, all sorts of other people on the guitar, and there was a moment when I actually liked something that I played myself and started realizing that what I saw as my deficiencies actually could be turned into my qualities, and Sid certainly turned his deficiencies into qualities, and much earlier than I did, and became very original, innovative sort of player.
And, you know, I can totally relate to that. So I suppose in some ways I have found my own sound, but in a lot of ways I haven't, because I've always felt, I don't know, like an imposter. I don't know what it is. Because clearly I'm creative. I love making videos like these. I've been doing this for a long time. I've been playing music for a long time, and I have written material. I've just never really taken it anywhere. How did I never get into music? How did me and my pals not get into music? Because we were all really into listening to music, still are, and yet none of us thought of it really as something that we could do. That's a lie, actually. I've got a friend who did, a friend called Ross, and another friend called Nat. So yeah, there were some musical people in my year at school who did go on and do stuff, but we didn't. Me and my little crew, we got into BMX bikes, so maybe that's why. Because we did travel around the country, going to BMX contests and that sort of stuff. So it could be that. Maybe that's why we didn't do it. That's why. Who knows? Who knows? But we shall not regret the past nor wish to shut the door on it, right? So no regrets. Just, I don't know, living vicariously through my kids now. And getting to enjoy the performance time that I do get once things start to open back up again. Because I had wondered, if I get offered gigs, am I going to take them? Because my life is quite different now from what it was even a few months before the pandemic, when I was playing maybe once a month solo. So my life is quite different now, and I had wondered whether, if offered, would I accept, and I think I will. You know, I think I should make that pledge to myself, because there is a lot of joy in it, and there is that therapeutic benefit of being in the moment, you know, doing something that takes courage and being in the moment. And also, I'm actually pretty good. So, you know, there is some enjoyment from the audience's side as well. They don't pay to come and see me. It's restaurant gigs that I do. So I'm kind of background music in a lot of ways, but you know, there have been many, many really nice comments from audience members after shows. So, you know, I often forget that. So yeah, that's all I wanted to share today as I come up here in the 25-degree heat, which for Scotland is pretty high. And I was going to walk and talk, but it was too hot, so I waited till I got here in the shade and sat down and talked with you about following your dreams. You know, don't give up on them. Do what it takes to reach them, and make a note of them. You know, if you can, articulate them, because that makes it a little bit easier not to forget them and to work towards them, which is the thing that I never did, you know. So do that, and one day I hope to be able to sit and watch my daughter performing in the Albert Hall or somewhere equally prestigious. And you know what? I think it might just happen. I think it will happen. So, yeah, keep going. Thanks for watching. Time to go home. See you in the next video. Bye for now.